Hi, and welcome back to the 50th episode of the Insights podcast series from Accel. I'm your host, Anand Daniel. Today, I'm excited to welcome back Mukesh Bansal to the Insights podcast. He was with us on podcast number 9, talking about his Mintra journey as well as starting out Cure.Fit. Today, we'll be chatting with him about his decade plus experience being an entrepreneur and some of the lessons from that, as well as his book, No Limits, where he talks about reaching peak performance. So let's dive right in. Hey Mukesh, welcome back to the Insights podcast. It's a real pleasure to have you back.
Yeah, good morning, Anand, and excited to be here.
Thank you. So today we mainly wanted to chat with you for the special episode of 50th Insights podcast. We want to talk to you more about your journey. The podcast is going to be three broad areas. So
Mhm.
one is your journey as a founder and a team leader. How has that evolved, particularly currently what we're going through worldwide, right, with the COVID-19. That's section one. And section two is about your book, No Limits, which I greatly enjoyed. So I want to talk some key lessons from that. And finally, despite your busy schedule and everything, you managed to carve out time to give back to the society broadly. So those are the three broad areas I wanted to touch upon. Right.
Yeah,
So I want to start out with first the scaling part, and then maybe let's start with the quarantine itself. On a scale of 1 to 10, how productive have you been on the quarantine? Myself, I think my productivity has gone up a little bit. Particularly, I've been chronically known to be late to meetings. That I managed to cut down thanks to Zoom, like in being instantly in and out and measuring that. So I'd love to hear how has the quarantine been for you from a productivity point of view.
it's been phenomenal from productivity point of view. I think even in the past, I've always found working from home to be quite productive. I think there are obviously less distraction. I feel part of my work is it obviously involves interacting with a lot of people, but a big part of work is also thinking. Just being able to focus on a problem at a time. And somehow, I struggle to find that space in office where you are disconnected from the hustle bustle of office for even an hour at a time. So I find that part, that aspect quite useful. But I think other thing is, Anand, I feel, when you're facing a crisis situation, productivity automatically goes up. I think if I look at last 2 months, I don't think I can find anyone, especially anyone with some kind of responsibility to deal with, because they are trying to manage the crisis, manage the business, manage personal health, family, just lot. So we just naturally adrenaline keeps pumping. You're trying to adjust your situation. So as bad as the pandemic is, I think it's generally probably quite useful from productivity point of view.
Got it. And from being the CEO and running a company here, how has that been? Maybe walk us through the initial phase and now what's the rhythm you've settled into?
Right. Yeah. For us, it is quite challenging. As you know, I mean, core of our business is of running offline fitness centers, and our revenue from that has gone to exactly zero. And gyms are going to be one of the last businesses which will be allowed to open. So adjusting to that, having large workforce which is currently idle, and there is really no way we can, um, uh, give them, a sufficient work to engage. That's challenging. So there are a lot of adjustment around that. How do you manage cost? Various scenario planning. Whether things will open up in Q3 or Q4 and so on. But to balance that, we have a significant digital fitness platform. And when the situation started, we realized early on that there's a big opportunity for us to pivot to almost being a digital first company. And that is required, the whole company to rally. We have built things a matter of days and weeks, which would have taken months and quarters in the past. So everyone, involved in the digital project has been on their toes. We are thinking very fast, making decisions quite quickly. So it's there's almost a mad scramble mode of execution that's going on that bit. It was quite chaotic in the first month. Now that we're in second month of lockdown, things have natural pace is starting to emerge. We have reset all our goals for the year. We have reset the OKRs. People have a lot more visibility into what to expect this quarter, next quarter. As an example, we were having daily all hands, first few weeks, which became twice a week, and now it's only once a week, which means there is a stability and clarity, and people know what needs to happen. So I think some kind of cadence is starting to emerge now.
Great. No, thanks for moving digital. So you guys have managed to keep me and some of my family members fit, and I think you're introducing even that's one of the things I find amazing. Like we talked about the kids uh, thing, and you guys were able to roll it out in less than a week. So talk to us about that, like the thinking and executing. How are you able to do it in such a uh, fast pace? Like that's an important aspect, especially you can't meet people today. Everything's
Right.
done like this, right?
Yeah.
So.
I think the core idea behind or core enabler for being able to move very fast is a lot of decentralization. Even though we are a large team, but we are mostly organized as pods, and there's huge amount of empowerment at each individual pod level. We align at the high level strategy. So, for example, let's say now strategy for us is to build $100 billion digital business over next 18 months. Translating that into project initiatives is highly decentralized process, and people are empowered to make decisions, run fast. In fact, there are times when things come for approval to me and Ankit, and the feedback goes back to him like, "Why are you coming us to approval? You are supposed to be a senior leader in the company. You make a decision and live with this. If anything doesn't go wrong, be prepared to answer in future, but don't expect stamp of approval from someone." But that in this time, worked really fast. Example of kids program, honestly, I didn't even know that's gone live. I just heard in some forum that someone is working on it, and now I'm hearing from you that's gone live. And that's way we are executing. I think people align well on the core values we believe in, on how we do things here, what is a big picture, and now in the revised scenario, what are the key priorities for the company. And from there, people, teams and individuals define their own work, and then execute at their own pace.
Got it. And were you or the company always like this, the autonomy and individual decision making, or was this a journey for you? You can look back in your 10+ years of being a leader. Yeah.
I think it's been, from Cure.Fit, I would say it's been like that from day one. But this has been a journey in the making. A lot of my views about organization, org structure, culture, etc., were formed during my days in Bay Area. I really saw firsthand how impactful autonomy and empowerment can be. Bay Area is place where every engineer dreams of changing the world, and many of them end up doing that, and that's runs through the entire culture of Silicon Valley. And so I try to leverage many of those in Mintra. There was a learning, it's a kind of adopting that to Indian entrepreneur ecosystem, which was like 10 years ago was not that mature. It's a lot different now. There were things that worked in Mintra, things that didn't work in Mintra. It was a continuous iteration process. But at Cure.Fit from day one, Ankit and I were very clear that we wanted to build a very unique culture centered around the concept of empowerment of the individual. We wanted to hire best possible talent, and then we say, like, this is the big picture. This is what we want to do in 5 years, 10 years, and we want to give you as much freedom and autonomy as possible to make progress. So I think it's by now it's very much a fabric of how we do things at Cure.Fit. Just to give you a couple of examples, no one has any titles at Cure.Fit. We didn't think it would have been possible for us to come this far without that, right? We don't have formal reporting relationship. You are part of a project, and you are, for your work, you are accountable to project manager team, but there is no one person who controls kind of your destiny, which a formal reporting manager does, right? Similarly, our performance management is very individual in nature. Your performance management happens when you complete your 6 month. If it is in March, so we do performance review then. If it is in April, we'll do it then. So there is really no a company-wide performance exercise with the bell curve and grading and whatnot.
Mm.
So, and all of those, I think, assets are being very useful for us in this crisis time to be able to move very fast.
That's great. Some good lessons there for founders who are listening to adopt. Maybe that's on the team and how do you empower team and grow them and let them scale, right? So personally, maybe talk about some of the things, and we'll talk later about your book also and the various things that you shared there. But particularly as it relates to the lockdown, you're a big physical fitness proponent. So how have you managed to keep yourself fitness, both be it physical or mental? What are some of the hacks?
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm very lucky that
Yeah.
I have a small home gym, and it's just a few steps away from my work area. So I have really have no excuse to not work out. So yeah, I'm pretty much I mean, my routine has always been in the morning starts with fitness. When cult was open, I would go there occasionally. Now I'm obviously not able to do that, but I work on my gym. I take advantage of the all our digital classes that we are doing. More so on the yoga and meditation side, I complement my weights workout with yoga and meditation. Uh, so so between uh, in my gym, I combine things like a little bit of endurance training, some weight training. Someday I will just walk on a treadmill, and I have a treadmill with a screen, so I can put a Kindle book on that and just walk at a slow pace and read. I find it, highly relaxing and meditative while you get some reading done as well.
Yeah.
It's like, first few hours in the morning, and then, the work starts around, 9 a.m. or so.
Got it. And for people who don't have the work gym or anything like that, even through your app, I use your do-it-yourself thing. Just on my phone, I put it out there, and half an hour of that, I'm done. Like so,
Yeah, absolutely. And
definitely.
see, our best fitness accessory all of us have is our body. If you think
Yeah,
about our bodies
yeah,
designed for movement, there is really no other purpose the body serves, right? So any kind of exercise where we are able to moving our body around, it could be floor exercises, you can do all kind of cardio. And that's what most of the cult digital workouts are for. You really don't need anything, depending upon your temperament and health goals. The whole variety of workouts, and it turns out also most beneficial from health point of view. Weight training actually have their own use, but if you talk about holistic health, just using your body as a weight accessory and doing all kind of slow intensity, high intensity workout with that have phenomenal health impact.
yeah. And how about on keeping the mind clear? You talked a little bit about meditation and all that, right? So maybe talk to us a little bit more, especially now we're going through stressful times. There are hard calls to make, right? So any hacks around that aspect?
Yeah, see, I think one of the key things I've learned about health in last few years, both how important it is to take care of your mind, as well as how powerful meditation can be. I feel in the when we think about health and fitness, we always think about workout and maybe food, but I feel that two things that come before that is sleep and taking care of mind, and meditation just does wonders for one's mind. So now I meditate almost every day. Some days only 10 minutes, some day even 30-40 minutes. And last 20 years, there's a lot of science that has come up, which has validated all the positive impact that meditation has. So, and whether you even do 1 minute meditation, or a few minutes, the benefits starts to accumulate. It's a great stress buster, enables you to focus, learning is expedited, just you're able to deal with things, improve significantly. So various breathing exercise and meditation is almost must have if one is interested in health, and it ends up having positive impact on productivity as well. So it's one of those things we just keeps on giving.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good segue into talking about your book. As you mentioned earlier, I really enjoyed it. You've distilled down best practices from so many different sources, and you mentioned many of my favorite books there, so that made it even more like resounding.
Yeah, I joke about
So
it. When people ask me what the book is about, I basically say it's summary of top 50 performance books, and I say it in all sincerity. I think most people will never read those 50 books, and
yeah,
obviously try to weave a story around this. I think when I say 50 books, I really mean last 20, 30 years of research into science of performance. Which
yeah.
various books have tackled different aspects of it. I've tried to kind of just weave it all together into one coherent narrative, and also in a easy to follow format.
And absolutely correct. So I've read many of the books that you've quoted multiple times, and but the way you brought it all together to make it one narrative and also hopefully easy to remember is was super helpful for me. So thanks for doing that, and also the 43 performance hacks,
Right.
right, were amazing. I'll start with the 43rd one. showing gratitude. Thanks for making it to the podcast. I know today was a busy day for you, and
Appreciate
absolutely a
that.
pleasure. Right. So just talk to us about what was the motivation for doing the book. Where did you always want to write, or what made you do it?
No, I think it's kind of two things came together. One is, I've been interested in performance for a very long period of time. First on just how to improve my own performance. In the things that I was involved in. Later on, as I grew as leader, one of the things you are responsible for is creating an environment. Nurture people around you and help them, perform at their best level. Thinking about how to help the kids, as a parent, how do you guide them and help them do better in whatever they choose to do.
Hmm.
So I've been very curious about how does performance happen, how do certain people are able to perform at a very different level that most of us think is beyond our reach. I started reading about it, and after reading few things, experimenting, some things started to click in my head, and became more intrigued and curious and started reading more and more. um, and while that was going on, I also realized I use writing as a kind of thinking tool. Whenever I sit down and write, it just helps me clear my mind. I'm able to bring together a lot of disparate ideas into kind of one story, one way of thinking. It's also become easily shareable. I've been using that as a management tool for a long time. I write a weekly note to our teams for many years now. I was a product manager before in Mintra, so I used to write a lot of product specs. So I just always benefited from writing. And so this book was, once some concepts were clear in my head, I just wanted to share with larger number of people. And since I've always enjoyed writing, it was also a good way for me to articulate this back to myself, that this is all I have learned about performance. And I can put, hopefully put in a format where a lot of other people can benefit from it. I recognize that I love books, right? I love reading, but reading also consumes a lot of time. And people are very busy these days, a lot of distractions. And I wish everyone can read those 50 books, but
Mm.
probably most people will not. So I was hoping that just with a few hours of investment, you can get the benefit out of what you would have from reading 50 or 100 books around performance. So that was a other motivation.
Yeah, so I'm just going through some of the notes, highlights. There's a lot of them, and you talk about how even the ultra marathon runners, the great people like the people who have done 100 miles and other things, or normal people who train and perform. Right, that it's not necessarily something that's innate to us or genetic. Right, so everyone can develop. Right, so
Absolutely, there is no doubt whatsoever. If when I was, 15 ago, if you asked me, I would have given you all kind of excuses about talent and temperament and whatnot.
yeah,
But now we know enough about how our minds work, the plasticity of mind, and how our body work on the whole, use it or lose it principle. It just
yeah,
mind and body are optimized machines. You put them in an environment, and whatever triggers are there, body and mind responds to it, and that's training.
yeah,
Happens slowly, so that's why we don't see it. But the whole power of 1% compounding over a year or 5 years
yeah, yeah,
adds up, right? We keep hearing about story after story about people, when who anyone thinks of an overnight success. When you look
yeah,
behind the scenes, you recognize a person has been practicing or training last 10 years or 20 years. It's just that at
yeah,
some point you cross the threshold, and
yeah,
suddenly you have this inhuman capability. But it
yeah,
just builds one step at a time, doing small things again and again, harnessing the power of our bodies to adapt
yeah.
to our environment and stimulus.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of things, man. So one of the things I highlighted is don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. You had quoted some other author, like
Right.
so many nuggets like that. So so, but maybe one thing I wanted to chat about, like too many things that I highlighted. So which is good. So, but one thing is you talk about purpose in life, right? So
Yeah.
the sooner we find that, or there's no clock to it, but when you find that, that really drives everything else, then leads to that purpose. Maybe talk to us about how have you thought about that for yourself. I know it's a journey, but love to hear your thoughts there.
So it's definitely a journey, right? One of the reason I included that chapter in the book is when we talk about performance, the inevitable question is performance for what, right? Performance means, it implies you're trying to optimize something, you're trying to get more of something, or get better in something. But a lot of times, though, the things we are trying to get better at comes from external environment. There's somebody we know might have gotten good at something, so we were competing with that person. Sometime, without recognizing it, we might be pursuing, whether it's business success or money or fame or power and whatnot. As long as it comes from deep sense of meaning for you, you will be able to stay with it a lot longer. You will also enjoy the journey. If it is, it's totally driven by external stimulus, just because someone else has it, you also want it. So you may, get excited and start pursuing that. But then inevitably, to make performance happen, you'll have to do a lot of small things day in, day out. You have to put the repetitions in, whether things are going well or not. And that's when, if the purpose is not very deep, you don't derive much meaning out of it, the journey may seem fruitless. You may think about even the potential reward, and you may second guess, why the hell you want that thing anyway, right? It's a uh, So I think thinking deeply about why you want to achieve perform something, what do you very strongly relate to, how do you see yourself, what is your self image about yourself. Sometimes doing exercise, when you look back and seeing how I spent my last 10 years, I'm happy with,
Mm.
not about what I've achieved, but I'm happy with how I spent that time with. So all those are good guidelines in choosing, what you pursue. Like there, all kind of things, which from an outward appearance may or may not appear like success, but it may be success according to your own definition. And having that introspection and reflection around purpose kind of help you give clarity, so that you spend time on things that will eventually matter more to you, and not because just someone else was doing and therefore you and decide to pursue that.
And you talk about like that purpose helps you plan 5 years, 10 years ahead, and work back. Maybe two-part question there. One is how do you what any hacks from your life on how you think long-term strategy. Bill Gates used to go and lock himself up in a shed and read books for a week, right? So any such hacks that you do, that's question number one. And then that's for the long-term planning. And then more on the tactical stuff, habits makes a person successful or not. You talk about that in the book as well. So what are the top 3 to 5 things that, at least for you personally, it's been super helpful on a day in and day out? We already talked about a couple of them, but just want you to reiterate. So one is long term, and then the other is every day.
Yeah, I think a lot of perspective related things for me, come from reading. It's almost, I do read a lot, and for me, reading a book ends up becoming almost like a conversation with the author in my head. You read something, mentally I react to it, and I tend to read, a good deal of books, which are, I like to call them, panoramic books, which kind of paint a full picture, end to end, like, Sapiens, for example, Novel
Mm-hmm.
Harari's book, right? Or Short History of Nearly Everything. I think in some ways, my book is also a bit panoramic about the whole, canvassing the entire landscape of performance. So those books, help me develop this big picture thinking, like for any topic I'm interested in, what is the meaning of this, right? Where is all, what does it all end up? I try to do a lot of look back exercises. Let's say when I was 30, I would like to visualize, how will I, look at my life when I'm 40? How will I look at my life when I'm 50? You know,
Mm.
um, how will I look at myself when I'm, 80 or 90-year old? Will I still be working? Will I still be productive? What do I need to do now? So I think those looking back exercise, few years out, are, I think, can be very powerful.
Nice.
It's you can visualize. I do things like sometime, I'll write 5-year, 10-year goals. I definitely do annual goals, etc., which at least give me clarity about, what do I want to achieve and focus on this year. A lot of it's, working on something is mostly about eliminating many other things. And, we have so many choices now. We all get
Mm-hmm.
tempted. We want to do a lot of things. So I think having articulating and writing that this is what I want to focus this year helps, eliminate a lot of things. For example, this year I decided, I want to, I've always been interested in health, but for me, health has always been in the past been more about workout and various kind of workout routines. I decided this year, health is going to be just about food for me primarily. And
Mm.
so I made tons of changes with respect to food, experiment things. Currently I'm experimenting with the intermittent fasting, I think there's a lot of literature around how intermittent fasting is helpful for you. But then, I mean, that's just an example of a theme this year. It may be something else next year, but that's something helps me prioritize and focus on few things at a time.
Got it. So the looking back exercise and implementing yearly plans. And on a daily basis, you talked about exercise, meditation, and sleep, right? Anything else that or that'll make your top 5 to 10 habits? Like
Writing, I think,
just list a couple. Yeah,
yeah, writing. Whether writing, something related to Cure.Fit, making some plans. I'm working on my second book, so whenever I find time, I try to write 1,000 words for that. And yeah, I think it's the writing helps anchor me and gives me some clarity and some sense of achievement and progress during that day.
nice. Okay, already on the second book. That's great. Awesome. So that's great. So that's good to learn about the book. I don't know if people know that all the proceeds from the book go to Olympic Gold Quest, which is an organization that you have supported for quite some time. So maybe the last topic I wanted to talk to you about is what are the things that you're passionate about in giving back, and maybe talk about a couple of those. And yeah,
Yeah, I think sports and health for sure. One thing I'm passionate about. I've played sports all my life. Never been very good in sports, but I think I can manage myself around most sports. And sports is also one area where you people who pursue sports seriously. I think all elements of high caliber performance comes together in pursuit of sport. And Olympic sports is obviously the ultimate of what you can achieve in sport. So after I moved on Flipkart, I got associated with the Olympic Gold Quest. I'm part of their board now, and it's been a eye-opening and phenomenal learning experience and what all goes into preparing for Olympic sport. Unfortunately, India doesn't produce many medal winners, but OGQ has done their bit in furthering that agenda. So whatever little I'm able to pitch in to OGQ, it's been very rewarding and kind of inspired by all the high performance stories I've seen in OGQ. I felt the contributing all the royalties of this book to OGQ will be one small way to show my gratitude for what OGQ is doing for the country.
yeah, and people who are interested can go where to learn more and donate on this.
Yeah, just search for OGQ on Google, Olympic Gold Quest. You will see their website, and you can donate directly. There's a link you can follow, and any amount of donation is welcome.
Awesome. And this is towards the 2020 and 24, now
That's
24 Olympics, right? So yeah,
right. And
that's great.
2021. I mean, the Olympic association says like they will shift this 2020 by a year, so it will
Okay.
be held in Tokyo. So hopefully, it gives one extra year to all the athletes, and maybe who knows? I mean, we are hoping India will do really well in the upcoming Olympics, and hopefully by next year, life comes back to normal, and we can start to think about normal things like Olympics and whatnot.
Yeah, as Accel, we are supporters of LGQ and encourage the audience to also contribute. Hopefully, we'll see more Indian gold medals out there in the Olympics. So, and then maybe talk to us on ACT and Bharat Health Stack that you're helping with, a little bit about the background there.
Yeah, so ACT is an initiative started by various venture funds in the country. It's a phenomenal initiative where all the VC firms came together and said, what can we do to help the COVID situation? So they created this 100 crore grants fund, which is mostly contributed by the VC firms, individuals, various entrepreneurs, and some foundations. Till date, they've given 35 grants, and these are all very interesting, ideas in the testing space, PPE space, ventilator space, telemedicine space. Some projects we are working on scale. One of the projects that came out of ACT is this whole idea of Bharat Health Stack, which is a open source, public good telemedicine platform for the country. And the idea behind that is we can support COVID-related telemedicine at scale initially, but eventually it becomes an open source public health stack platform, which can accelerate the digitization of health in the country. So yeah, happy to be kind of involved both in ACT in the Bharat Health Stack. It does take some time away from my day-to-day Cure.Fit work and having to really stretch to do justice to all, but it's also very rewarding. And I think this is time where all of us need to step up and contribute. I think one way we can find fight this epidemic together is by coming together and contributing whatever resources we have at our disposal, including our own bandwidth. So I'm trying to do my bit.
Yeah, that's very generous of you. So wish you best of luck on those two and the rest of the initiatives. So let's go close with a few interesting questions. Rapid fire. Most frequently used app these days for you.
Cure.Fit.
Oh, nice. Most interesting piece of information advice that you came across during quarantine.
Mm, can't think of any one thing.
Okay, no issues. What's your preferred Zoom background? We are seeing one.
Yeah, no, I think this is I try experimenting with the virtual background, but it's just it's not very stable. It keeps creates a whole funny silhouette around you, so
Yeah.
you look larger
Especially if
than
you wear headphones,
life.
it's like your ear
I
is
know your
popping
head is
out.
on fire, right? So for now, until the technology gets better, no virtual background.
Yeah. So
But
what
I
do you
would, if
prefer?
I had my way, I would have nice, mountain background. I love mountains, nice snowy
Nature.
mountains. It would be
Nice.
a great way to
Oh,
have Zoom calls.
so would you prefer a quick call, instant messaging, or a Zoom call? What's your preferred mode?
Zoom call, I'm not a
Okay.
instant messaging fan. Yeah, Zoom is it's a much better communication. You can see the other person, whole body language also becomes part
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Last one. What is the best part of working from home?
Yeah, it's just no wasted time in commute. I mean, we are all, Bangalore traffic has been bane of our existence for many years, and having to escape it completely, I think it's very rewarding. So all the meetings start on time, ends on time, and then you are in no time you are up to next engagement. So that's
Yeah, even I've been on time as I started saying it. So awesome, Mukesh. Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your journey as well as some of the tips for and performance hacks that founders are listening to can put to use in their own lives. Wish you continued success and hope the audience who are listening also take a lot from this. Thank you.
thanks, Anand. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Good to talk to you again, and congratulations for running this very successful podcast. I'm sure a lot of people will find it useful. So all the best with that. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed that chat with Mukesh. Tons of learnings there that we can apply to our own journeys. You can find more podcasts from the series at insidespodcast.in. We'd really appreciate it if you can share this with your friends who can benefit from the podcast. We'd also love to hear from you on what we can do better at the Insights Podcast series from Accel. And you can tweet us at Accel_India with your thoughts and suggestions. Thank you.